Hello and welcome to Season 2 of ReFocus, where we talk to artists and music industry professionals about building sustainable careers as creative workers, with a focus on folk. I'm your host, Rosalind Dennett. Toronto-based singer-songwriter Just Prince is known for seamlessly blending Western and Eastern sounds into a harmonious tapestry. With a captivating style that defies genre constraints, his music weaves elements of folk, rock, blues, and Hindustani classical music into a mesmerizing experience. Just Prince's evocative compositions take listeners on a sonic journey, transcending cultural boundaries and resonating with the soul. At the 2023 Ontario Folk Music Awards, Just Prince was awarded the prestigious Colleen Peterson Songwriting Award by the Ontario Arts Council for his song Kamli. Just Prince had a jury-selected showcase at this year's Folk Music Ontario conference and is such a delightful person to be around. I'm excited for everyone in our ReFocus community to get to know him a little better. Please enjoy our conversation with Just Prince. Hi, Prince. How are you doing?
Good, Rosalind. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm so excited to speak with you. I haven't seen you since the Ontario Folk Music Awards.
Yes.
How have you been since then?
Pretty good. Just working on new music and writing new stuff. And working with my band and my own music, looking forward to some gigs. How about you?
You know, it's been good. It's been a busy time for sure. As we're kind of deep into conference and tour and gigging season, it's a busy time for a lot of folks. I'm wondering if you can just introduce, for folks who don't know you, give us a little background on your musical journey, how you got into it. What are some of your influences?
I grew up in India, in Punjab, but I've also lived in different places. I've also lived in Nigeria, Zimbabwe, and mostly grew up in Punjab. So fortunately, I was surrounded by people who listened to a bunch of different things, from like Pink Floyd to Zeppelin to grunge music mostly, or rock music, because it was just what was around in my friend group. And as well as like the Indian music, I guess, the classical stuff. I always grew up listening to it because the devotional songs that my mom listens and like my dad, it's always in the house. The devotional songs are constantly going, and then you don't even realize that, you grew up with it. So that's it. And then in Chandigarh, which is like close to Punjab, I started taking vocal lessons, Western vocal lessons, because that's what I was more interested in. So I studied Western vocals. I did my like the Trinity exams and all those things, like grade exams. So that was nice. And then I stumbled upon like Indian classical music. And I was like, I remember in my first class, my teacher was asking me to sing like a major scale. And I sang a major scale, but I was singing it with like making expressions like, then my face was like looking weird. And, and he was like, now do the same thing without making those weird expressions. So, and then that's when I knew this teacher is who I want to keep learning with. So his name's Humble Shine, and I studied in A.R. Rahman is like one of the musical legends in India, and I studied it in Chennai in his music conservatory for like almost a year, and then I'm still taking classes from the same teacher, still learning vocals. And later on I remember once again, one other moment in class where it's like, what is all this? Like, I don't get it. But then you keep doing it, and then you understand the mathematics behind it, behind like the distances between notes and like how to touch a certain note and come back to the other. And that to me is like still so interesting. Like, it's like an ocean, like people say, of possibilities and places that you can just transcend to.
Because it's very microtonal, right? Like
Yeah.
there's not just whole tone, half tone. There's a whole bunch of possibilities within those, right?
There is, but I think for me, I'd still sticking to the 12 notes. But the way you express it is like sometimes I think in Western music where you play a certain note and then you express that note. In Indian classical music, sometimes you'll just use it as a passing note. But the color that it creates is so interesting. That's why there's so many rags and stuff. Rags are basically scales. They have similar notations for the whole thing, but it'll sound so different. And just because of what note you stress on and what note you touch and go to the stress on the other note. And it's like really, it still excites me, all these little things.
Can you give us an example?
Bilas Khani Todi and Bhairavi, I feel like they have similar notes, but when you listen to them, the expression is so different in both the rags. But some people, when they sing, they'll mix those rag, and it works, but it's okay.
So then, how did you go from studying in this kind of conservatory, somewhat like classical setting, to then like writing your own music?
So even in India, I wrote a song. I've always, like, ever since I wanted to be a musician or an artist, I've always wanted to be an independent artist. That to me is freedom of for like expression or just like doing my thing. That appeals to me. That's like, okay, I'm free when I do this thing. That's the reason why, I guess, because I started writing songs back in India. I released one song and then I deleted that song because my parents, they're still like a little weird about me doing music, but now they're better than before. So yeah.
Well, your song Kamli, which won the Colleen Peterson Award, that was written from your mom's perspective, right?
Yes, yes.
Does she know that? Has she heard the song?
No.
Oh,
I would never tell her that.
really?
No.
How come?
I don't know. It's just, I was thinking about this a few days ago where it's like, it's so normal in the Western culture when you say, like, I love you, my mother or my dad, you say, I love you to like everyone. But in India, I think most of the people grow up not saying, I love you to anyone, but there's that feeling there. There's also this Sufi saying where it's like, if you did say, I love you, then, the weight of it is just the feeling. I don't know how to explain this, but like sometimes it's not even said, but I love my mother so much, but I never said that I love her. That's what I'm trying to say is like, but I can't explain that song to her.
Has she heard the song?
Oh yeah, yeah. I went to India last year and then we played the song, the whole album in the car, and they were all enjoying it. They were listening to it. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so she might know without saying it out loud
Yeah.
that she knows,
Yeah.
That's neat. And then, so, I've listened to a lot of your music and gone back into some of your catalog, and it's really interesting to hear the way that your kind of sound has progressed. And I hear like some stuff that's more leaning towards the style of the Indian classical music,
Yes.
and leaning towards there, and then some stuff that's like really Western sounding and more towards there. And then you have some stuff that's just like that perfect fusion of those things. Is that like a conscious choice, or you just still kind of feeling like you're feeling it out?
I think that's the musician side of me that can play around with all those notes and just have fun with it. And the artistic side of it is like expression. So I feel like when those two are on the same page, the musicianship and the artistry, but then I come up with those ideas where it's like, okay, this is how I want. Okay, this is what I released before. I don't want anything to sound similar to what I've already done. So I'm going to try something new. That's the idea behind it, basically.
That's cool. And then this was your first Folk Music Ontario conference. Do you consider yourself folk music, or
100%.
yeah, like is that kind of how you think of your music?
Yes. Because I also sang a Punjabi folk song, Challa, at one of my showcases, because I wanted to bring some Punjabi folk, authentic Punjabi folk, but in my own way, obviously. But yes, I do consider myself folk musician, but at the same time, I also write thinking that, okay, I can play rock or I can play blues, I can play with grunge and Indian classical. So folk is definitely a big part of how I think. Yes.
Fantastic. A lot of people were really excited by your performance at FMO. You're buzzing,
Thank
Everyone
God.
was
Thank God.
really excited about it. And are you looking forward to doing more kind of like live performance? Are you looking to tour? What are some of the plans you have coming up?
So ever since I like started doing this, I've been wanting to play big stages, and I want to play, like, I keep it that simple. Like in my head, that's the goal, to play big stages, nice stages, and to be able to keep doing music. I feel like I've done what like most musicians would do. I've played on the streets, I've busked, I've played like those bars where no one's listening to you and you play for 3 hours and you get paid like $70. And now I feel like now intentionally I want to play festivals, big festivals, and I want to tour and play places which are like nice big listening rooms. That's my goal, and I really hope I can achieve those things because I'm ready with my music, I feel. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting during your acceptance speech when you won the Colleen Peterson Award. You mentioned during it that there was a moment that you were doubting yourself and you weren't sure if this was like the right path for you to go on. Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that moment for you?
It comes down to like, for me now, that perspective came from like materialistic things where it's like, okay, I want a nicer place to live. Okay, I want to be able to drive wherever I go, but I don't even have a car. So like, and then your parents call you and they're like, what are you doing in Canada? And then you're like, and you don't have an answer for them because you are putting in a lot of practice with your band or by
Mhm.
yourself, but it doesn't pay you for to practice, so but grants are are a thing, so I'm gonna
Mhm.
I've looked into some grants and hopefully I'll get a few. But anyways, so that's what was the struggle, is like, man, this is like, I'm stuck. I just had a feeling of being stuck and I wanted to get out of it and just like be able to earn more and play music somehow. And it's not like the first time it happened. I'm sure every
Mm.
musician goes through this phase where it's like, oh, I could have done this and then I could have made more money and just like live life easier. But I don't think it's as fulfilling as the stupidity that you're living with, I guess. In someone else's perspective, it's stupidity, I feel. But we're just having fun, I guess. We're like, in a way, we're feeling free and we're living life, and that's why we do this. But it's definitely tough for artists, and especially, like, I don't sing songs that are like proper catered to Canadian audience, but at the same time, Canadian audience is very open. They're very receptive of different kinds of music. So that's a blessing. I'm in a good place.
Yeah, well, and you're giving those audiences something that's so unique, and with like such joy around it. And I'm so excited for more folks to hear you and find out about your music.
Thank you so much. No, it's such a pleasure. Also, coming from you, I respect you a lot, and
Ah,
I remember meeting you at the Small World, one of the sessions.
yeah, the Small World Music Incubator.
Yes, incubator. Yeah. And I remember you telling me a story of like, full disclaimer, I've slept in a car for a conference. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I respect, you know, to go to those lengths just to be able to be around music or just to be able to play music. And like, that says a lot about a person. So
It's not always the most glamorous lifestyle, you know, that
100%.
but, we make it work. What do you think kind of snapped you out of the self-doubt kind of spiral?
Okay, so the thing is, like, the music that I'm making is unique and I'm aware of that, and it's different. So I am, in a way, being the best version of myself.
Mhm.
And I consider myself like one of the best places that I could be at, like, with my music. So I'm doing good, like, on my music side. When I'm singing, I'm not going off much. When I'm playing, timing wise, I'm not going
Mhm.
off much, and that to me is like very reassuring. That, the things which I started with, basically, just like singing in key and playing in time. That's what is most important to me, and the things that I'm saying as well, the songwriting of it.
Mhm.
And so that is like super unique, and so I recognize that. And that's the reason why I snapped out. That self-doubt is like, no one no one can do this other than me.
No, no one else can tell your stories and no one else can share that unique perspective.
Yes.
What are some of the other themes? Maybe you can tell folks a bit about some of the things that you are writing about and
Mhm.
where your inspiration for songwriting comes from.
So it's always like different topics, obviously, as every songwriter writes about. But I've written songs like Borders, which is about just like everyone being under the same sky and like just unity, thinking big, I guess. And then I've also written like storytelling songs like Kusur, which is a Hindi song, Urdu, Hindi or Urdu. And it's just a story about meeting someone and then going our separate ways, and that's okay. And then there's all sorts of songs just being at two different places. Illusion is about like faces over like too many like people. So whatever I feel strongly, like, so there's different topics. Obviously, I don't think I have like a specific theme that I write about. It's a jungle in here.
Well, it's life, Life
Yeah.
is it's complicated,
Yes.
right? When did you move to Canada?
I came here in 2018, and then the first 2 months I was living in a basement, going to college, and like I was living my saddest life because I couldn't do music. And then I found out that steps away from where my college was, there's along McQuaid. And then I used to sit in there for hours, like skipping all my classes. I don't care about my classes, just go in that long McQuaid and just keep playing guitar. And none of the employees said anything. Like I would sit in there for 3-4 hours and they didn't say anything. So I really appreciate whoever. And then one of the guys who worked there is a good friend of mine now. So that's how I guess it started. And then I started looking up like, where can I play? So I came to downtown Toronto. I was living in Scarborough at the time. And then I remember for like 1.5 or 2 years, I used to commute every day from Scarborough to Toronto. It's like a 2-hour train thing just to play like 2 songs at open mics, or like just to be around people who play music. And like, it's so cool. You get to listen to other songwriters and like what their journey is, and you make friends. It's like the perfect thing.
Shout out to those Long and McQuaid employees.
Yes.
That you practice there.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Who were some of the influences? Like, who were some people that you were listening to, or folks that kind of influenced you around that time?
I listen to classical stuff a lot. So Ustad Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab, he's like insane. You cannot even touch what he's doing, like the way he's singing, the expressions. Salamat Ali Khan Sahab, Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab is a very intelligent composer. Hariharan was like one of the first people who was actually doing this, who was like mixing genres, where it's like he was bringing in Western and like Indian classical. He's like an amazing, very nice singer. One of his ghazals, I think you should check it out. It's called Ye Aine Se. It's in a blues scale, and I think that was the first time I heard a ghazal in blues scale, and I was like, whoa, this is so sick. And then on the Western side, I was listening to bands like Pink Floyd. The songwriting of it was just like, it makes you think, like the way they write. Then even Kurt Cobain, amazing songwriter. Chris Cornell's voice was a big inspiration, like the range
Yeah,
and like
absolutely.
sheer expression. So, and then even the band called Tool. Tool was another big inspirations, just because the way they play with time, like they have different time signatures, and like it's fun. It's really fun. And then also, recently I discovered like D'Angelo. His production is insane. Like the layering, that even Pino on bass. How does someone think like to produce like, it's really amazing. So these are some of the people that I grew up listening to. And like Begum Akhtar, she's incredible classical singer. Kaushiki Chakravarti, again, incredible classical singer. And Tirakwa, who is a tabla player, legend tabla player. Allah Rakha Khan Saab, again, tabla player. So because of Abbas, I'm getting introduced to all these like tabla players. Abbas is a friend of mine who plays tabla with me. Yes.
Yeah. How did you meet the folks in your band? Who do you usually play with?
So Abbas, I met through one of the gigs that we played together. So he plays tabla with me, and I convinced him to play some percussions. So just because the song needed percussions, rather than, it's like some songs, the music just needs different things. And Patrick, I met through Small World. That was really nice. And he's like super nice. Both of these guys are like very nice guys, and they're like disciplined when it comes to like their self practice and like practicing on the songs, and like they have positive input. So I'm lucky that I get to work with these guys. Yes.
Do you have your own practice regimen?
Oh yeah. Yes, 100%. I wake up and then do my thing, and then I sit on this, like, so Indian classical people, they sit on the floor, and then I have a drone. It's called tanpura. So you turn it on. Usually in the morning time, I'm practicing an A sharp key. So I'm just practicing the lower notes, and then from the lower fifth up until the upper fifth for the morning time. And then during the afternoon or something, I'll go to C sharp or D, sometimes even D sharp. And then I'll practice like the full scales and I try different combinations and stuff.
Amazing. And then you primarily play guitar, right? When you're accompanying yourself?
Yes. So guitar, funny enough, I haven't like sat with my guitar and practiced a song in forever. Like every time I play, it's like I didn't practice the song, but I practiced my notations and I practiced like my basic guitar thing that I'm trying to work on. But for the song, I never like practice a song unless I'm with Abbas and Patrick and then we're going through the song.
When you're writing, do you take that same kind of discipline to writing where you're like, okay, I'm going to write from this time to this time, or is it just whenever inspiration comes in?
For writing, I want to say a thing. There's this friend of mine who I ran into randomly, and then she was like, oh, I had like a writer's block for 2 years and I couldn't write. And then I was like, it's a thing. Writer's block is a thing, you know? And you start believing that just because someone else has been through it, you start believing. And then I heard this Johnny Mitchell interview where she was like, I'm constantly having things to say. And then I was like, me too. And then I was like, it's a mindset thing, honestly. When I heard like Johnny Mitchell say, I never have writer's block, she said that. And I was like, okay, if she can never have writer's block and she constantly has things to say, I can do it too. It's like such a switch for me. Like right now, like vocals is taking a lot of space in my life and I want to keep excelling at it and just want to keep doing better at it and just like listening. I think the better listener you are, it's more fun.
Yeah, the listening aspect of it is sometimes, I think, just as important as actually playing, you know?
Yes.
I'm not talking about the kind of listening where you're like doing the dishes and, doing something else, but that kind of active listening,
Yes, I'm sure you are a great listener. Do you ever like hop in jams and like do you know what key it is? Like because you play a fretless instrument, and then you.
Yeah, I have some like classic stories of, being on stage at a festival and like the guitar player starts a song with like the capo on the wrong fret, so all of a sudden I'm like, okay guys, we're in G flat now instead of G major, and
That's so fun.
like adapting in that way. Certainly for a fretless instrument, having good ears is pretty handy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty clutch. It's but in terms of listening, I find it difficult to have background music because I want to listen. So if I'm going like running or doing something else, I'm usually listening to a podcast, not to music, because like I can't really function if there's music going on.
True.
Even like getting like if you've ever had like a massage or anything like that, or any kind of service where they'll like put on like music in the back, even like doctor's offices or something, and they put on music in the background that's supposed to make you calm, and I'm like freaking out because I'm like, this is weird. Why are they doing this? What is that instrument? Why? It's like the least calming thing for me and you analyze it. I don't have a lot of theory, but I think about it. Like, why does this good or why don't I like it?
Yeah, and then you start thinking of the distances. Okay, was this the third or the fourth? And then you're like, oh, okay, it's a major scale. It's there. Okay, it's here. It's in this time signature. Okay, this is what's happening.
Yeah. And like people's vocal, when you're talking about the vocal approach, there are so many interesting singers out there to listen to. That always kind of fascinates me.
Yes, definitely. Who are some of your favorite singers?
Oh my God. I can't answer those questions. That's like the most impossible question for favorite singers, favorite bands, favorite songs. I can never answer those questions. It's like that's like my worst nightmare is having to answer that question, because what you're saying about your influences resonates a lot with me, because I feel like I also listen to a lot of different styles of music and like very similar. I feel like we had like the same 90s mixtape or something, because I have a lot of similar influences, but because there's so many different types, it's hard to compare them to each other, I guess.
Yeah.
When you're into a lot of different genres.
True. But that's what it is. I feel like every individual, like, thank God they were themselves so that you could look at them or like listen to them years later. And then you can be like, oh, wow, there's beauty in like them being themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, gosh, absolutely. Favorite singer right now? Just Prince.
Thank you.
We were talking about like that analysis and that music theory way. Were you studying theory when you were at the conservatory, like doing like the singing lessons and stuff?
Yes. I feel like in the Western side of music. There are, in classical music, there are a bunch of scales, there are like different things happening. But for the commercial stuff, I feel like it's just major, minor, pentatonic. And which is fine. But as a musician, you're like, okay, I want more spice to it. I want to listen to something more. And then, so Indian classical was that thing, which I think you only understand when you're actually interested in music, when you're actually like learning. And that's what it is, like being a good student of music all your life. It's just, you're like, so that's what it was. So there's four scales, which basically my teacher tells me to practice every day, but I never do. I used to, but so the first one is like major scale, and then the second one is with the flat third and flat seventh. The third one is flat second, flat third, flat sixth, flat seventh. And then the fourth one is just the flat second and flat sixth. So, and then while going up, you play one, and then while coming down from the upper root, you play something else. So, this is something that I practice, or I should be practicing more. But it's very interesting. And then you do that with the raised fourth, which is okay, which is like, oh, even more fun.
Yeah. So are these, when you said your teacher, is this the person that you're studying the Indian classical
Yes,
with?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Humble Shine. He's amazing. Like, one of the things about, he's from south of India, and so he speaks like Tamil. There's many different languages. So he speaks like Tamil or Malayalam, and he sings in Urdu, which is like, he understands those songs just for the sake of singing. And I've known him for like 5-6 years now, and I have to tell him that, sir, I've known you for 5-6 years, but your Hindi or Urdu hasn't got any better. Like, it's still the same, which is so funny. But he's amazing. But he's the one, yeah, he's the one, and he's very intelligent when it comes to music, and like his ear is crazy. Like, that's one thing I want to get better at. Is just like developing my ear.
Do you feel like there's some overarching lessons that you've taken away from that, like other than like the technical stuff,
There's like some really nice ghazals that he has introduced me to, and then we've also built like a friendship over the years, where it's like, yeah. And also I feel like in the Western side, did you have like different teachers growing up?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So in Indian classical, there's usually like one guru that you stick to, and you keep learning from them. I find it very like nice, because you build a relationship with that teacher, and then they know you and like what your capabilities are, and they're like, and every class when it ends, I'm like, what should I practice, sir? And he'll tell me, okay, you should work on this, you should work on that, and then I'm like, okay, this is fun.
That's neat though. And it's neat that that like student teacher relationship grows into a friendship over time. And I think that's really beautiful.
That's really fun.
You mentioned the amount of languages that your teacher knows. How many languages do you speak? And then how many languages do you sing in?
Okay, so I speak English, Hindi, Urdu, Punjabi, and I write in all four.
Nice.
So
Wow, cool.
it's like, because you know how, do you speak French?
Very poorly. We'll just say no for the for the record.
So I feel like some songs which are in French would only sound very beautiful when they stay in French, right? So it's like one of those things. That's how I approach my writing. But it's like, okay, this song, this is what my message is. It's about Sufism. So I feel like Sufism, like Nachis, is about selflessness or insignificance, how insignificant we are as human beings, and like, who is a stranger here, all those things basically. So that song I wrote in Urdu because I felt like I couldn't express it better in any other language. So that's how I approach it. And it came naturally, I feel, the songwriting. Sometimes I'm just walking down the street. That's when I write the most. When I'm walking around and okay, I observe something. And then I'm like, oh, okay, this is my perspective on what I just saw or like what I just heard. And you're just like staying still and observing. That's it.
That's so neat. Mine's usually like driving. I think there's like a method to that, like walking or driving or like something that a part of your body is like doing something repetitive enough that you're not thinking about it, but a part of you is like occupied.
Yeah,
So that the rest of you can be like aware and take in inspiration or something.
true.
You mentioned like incorporating Sufism into songs. And I know that was a part of Kamli. Is that a common theme that you draw upon?
Honestly, it's very random. I grew up listening to a lot of like Sufi songs, and like that's what I get drawn to the most, the writing of that. But there's also times when you just want to like chill and like listen to some nice easy songs. And like Leon Bridges River is such a nice song. Sometimes you just want to listen to like nice and easy chill songs. And I also use like different people's perspective to write, so that's fun because it's like an actor getting getting in someone else's skin, and then you're presenting what they think how they are presenting. But
Yeah. So for like a little bit of background for folks who aren't aware of the Colleen Peterson Award, the award was started by the Ontario Arts Council and is like administered by Folk Music Ontario. But there's like the juried award, and it's given to an outstanding songwriter for an outstanding song, but it is for like an emerging artist. And it's in honor of Colleen Peterson, who was an amazing Ontario singer-songwriter. What was your reaction when you found out that you had won the award? Because it is a surprise. You don't know
yes,
that. The interesting thing about the award is that you don't apply for it.
yeah.
Somebody from the jury of the awards, you get selected. What was your reaction?
So I was walking with a boss. We were going to get lunch, and then I was like, I usually don't pick up calls from like unknown numbers, so I didn't pick up. And then I heard the voicemail, and then it was like, I have some good news for you, Carolyn speaking from Ontario Arts Council. She basically gave me the good news, and I had like the biggest smile on my face, and I was like,
Ah,
thanking God, and like, thank you so much for this. And honestly, like with how the Folk Music Ontario the week was, like the award was like a cherry on top. It was really, really, really something. And I heard some like really nice singer songwriters there. Even
hmm.
a lot of like Toronto friends came. There's so many amazing singer songwriters and like so many different stories that they sing about. Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really nice part of FMO, absolutely. But any of the like these kinds of gatherings, when people are asking like, well, what's the point? Like sure you're there to like hopefully get some gigs or drum up make some relationships. But there's a lot of value in just getting that inspiration from people doing the same thing that you're doing. And, maybe some people that are maybe a few steps ahead of where you are, and getting to see some of the trajectory as well as just being inspired by other artists and all sorts of different kinds of art. There was a really interesting mix of music this year.
Definitely. I find it very, very nice too. Like the Hillary from The Pairs, which is an
Hmm.
amazing band and group. We played The Pairs, and I played like a so far show 4 years ago. And it was my first ever so far show. And
Hmm.
then those guys were super nice to me. And then they were like, so she's the one who introduced me to like, oh, you should apply for this thing, Folk Music Ontario. And like, so it's been on my radar for a while, but it was just like some documentations. I had to get my PR done. I have my PR
Hmm.
now, so which is good. And then last year I was in India. So this year seemed perfect. And then I was like, yes, I get to showcase. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's all about timing,
Yeah.
it always comes through in the end. And we'll extend a thank you to Hillary
Yes.
for introducing you to us. And it's cool to see because the Pairs hosted the Ontario Folk Music Awards. So neat to see that kind of come in a neat full circle, right?
Yeah. I was so comfy there. I'm like, these guys are all my friends.
Yeah. Yeah, they did such an amazing job. Tell us a little bit about what you have coming up.
So there's this band of this is a different project. It's Running Rivers. We were like five people first, then we were four people, and then now we're three people. So it's me, Zishan, and a bass again. But I'm playing bass and singing now, and Zishan plays guitar and a bass plays tabla. So we recorded an album in August, which was a 6-track album, and now it'll be a 3-song EP.
Nice.
Just because some things happened, and I don't want to get into the drama. but so now we're releasing 3 songs, which should be out by mid-December or end of December.
And that was Running Rivers.
Yes, Running Rivers. So that EP is something I'm looking forward to. And other than that, I have like a few shows coming up that I'm excited about.
And you're pretty active on social media too, right? Like people
Yes.
can follow you on Instagram and
Yes.
that.
There's that. And I constantly post about like my shows or my music. Yeah. Strictly music related things. So that's fun.
As a devoted follower of you on Instagram, it's a great channel to follow because you also post like just like you jamming and playing little bits or snippets of stuff. And
Yeah.
it's really, really fun to hear what you're working on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with us. It's been great getting to know you better, and I hope our listeners enjoyed getting to know you, and I know that they'll love your music.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and so nice to talk to you.
That's all for this episode, friends. The ReFolKUs podcast is brought to you by Folk Music Ontario. Find out more by heading to folkmusicontario.org/ReFolKUs. That's ReFolKUS. The podcast is produced by Kayla Nizon and Rosalind Dennett and mixed by Jordan Moore at the Pod Cabin. The opening theme is by King Cardiac and the artwork is by Jamie Karn. Please give us a download, a like, subscribe, rate, and review to let us know you're listening. Until next time, keep it folk and have fun.